Hey everybody, SP Scotty here. Just doing a little something different today for one of my viewers. A few weeks ago, I was out rail fanning, and one of my viewers wanted me to take some pictures of the rail web and rail structure for him. Uh, some of you might know him. His name is Dave Cole. He has the YouTube channel CCRX 6700, and he is a maintenance of way worker for the Cumberland Mine and Railroad in western Pennsylvania. So I decided to do him one better, and instead of just taking pictures, I'm going to try to channel my inner Dave today and see how it goes. You guys know I don't normally get in front of the camera often, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm out here um, on Union Pacific's Sunset Route, and about 11 to 12 miles west of here is the town of Gila Bend, and about 35 miles maybe, I'm sorry, 25 miles maybe east of here is the town of Maricopa. And this particular spot is in between the siding of Shawmut up around the hill right there. And many of you probably are familiar with Shawmut if you watch my train videos for any length of time. Um, you can see right in the center of the screen there is an American flag waving, and that is Fort Shawmut, named by the combat rail fans who have been coming out here and watching and having a good time with trains for years now. And over here to the left, which is to the west, right where that tall communications tower is, way out in the distance there, that is about the east end of Bosque siding. And in between Bosque and Shawmut is this single track stretch, one of the few remaining single track pieces on Union Pacific's old Southern Pacific Sunset Route. Most of it has been double tracked and in some spots triple tracked because the high volume of traffic out here between the West Coast and New Orleans and Chicago and points farther east. So Dave wanted me to, as I said earlier, get a picture of the rail structure and the rail web so he can get a view of what things are like out here on the Union Pacific Main Line in Arizona. So today is December 1st, 2024. It's a Sunday. Surprisingly quiet out here today. There are a lot of cars rolling by on the highway that runs through here, about a mile off in that direction. Highway 347. A lot of people traveling for the Thanksgiving weekend, heading home to either San Diego or home to Phoenix. And so there are a lot of cars out there today, but no rail fans in this area. So I've got the place all to myself. It's a nice day, probably about 70 degrees right now, but kind of breezy, so I hope the wind is not killing the audio on this. And I'm situated right here next to a desert wash and a wooden trestle with a ballasted deck across it. Right there's my GoPro set up for some low angle shots of a couple of trains that have already rolled by. So anyway, this is a high-speed main line. Although we are climbing, eastbound trains climb a 1% grade from Gila Bend all the way through CP Estrella, Control Point Estrella, which is over those mountains right there, probably about 6 to 7 miles east of here. So this is a 1% grade for eastbound trains. And Westbounds can come zipping through here between about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Eastbounds, depending on the makeup of the train, if it's a fast Z train, some of them can zip up through here at about 40 to 50 miles per hour if their horsepower per ton ratio is high. Heavy manifest trains can sometimes struggle through here at about 20 miles per hour or even less sometimes. So anyway, out here I've already seen a lot of pieces for the concrete ties that are used here. This is 136-pound rail, continuous welded rail on concrete ties in very deep ballast, which I think looks like crushed granite. And I've already assembled a couple of the clips that hold these rails to the concrete ties. They're on some kind of an isolator with a clip and a bolt that runs through it deep into the concrete tie. This particular one looks like it might be a European company, Vossloh, and was manufactured in August of 2019. That's the black plastic clip here in my hand. The bolt and the other clip are used to secure the rail to the concrete ties here. So I've assembled a couple of those since I've been here. There are plenty of the pieces laying around to do that. And here's a look at that the crushed granite ballast, I believe. But there are also lots of remains of the old Southern Pacific era slag ballast. Lots of this old slag from what I presume are the copper mines of Arizona. Southern Pacific probably got this stuff very cheaply, and they used much of it out here up until the 90s or late 80s. And there's still a lot of it remaining out here today, along with the old telegraph line poles and lines, although in very deteriorated condition. I can hear a westbound train coming now from a couple of miles out over the hills out here. I can hear a westbound train coming down the grade right now. And over here I see a green signal. So we're gonna possibly get video of this train rolling through here in a few minutes. You can see the thick timbers that comprise this trestle over a sandy wash here in the desert. The concrete footings of this were poured in 1931, and we are at milepost 867.38 on Southern Pacific's old milepost numbering system, where San Francisco was milepost 0. So we are 867 miles from San Francisco at this location. Yes, there is definitely a westbound train coming right now. I can hear it just about to round the corner. There it is. So I'm going to turn on my GoPro and make my way across this wash to get you guys a better view, I hope. Catch this one from the bottom of the wash as it crosses over the trestle here. So there was a nice surprise in that train. Union Pacific must have known I was out here today and sent their Southern Pacific Heritage unit out to see me. That's not the first time I've seen that engine, but I'm glad to have seen it today. I was hoping to get a special engine out here today. I had no idea that that one was coming, so that was a nice surprise. Let me just turn off the GoPro here. So we're back to the ballasted wooden trestle here. These timbers look to be relatively new and not worn out or chipped or weathered too badly. So this might have been refreshed by Union Pacific sometime in the last few years. So earlier when I was scouting out the rails here for Dave, I noticed that it was hard to see the embossed lettering on these rails on this side, if there are even any at all. The rust kind of hides it somewhat. But on the other side of the track, it is more visible. As I said earlier, this is 136-pound rail. So there's the 136. And this manufacturer is new to me. I'm not familiar with the REERMS designation. But this rail was rolled in August of 2023. All the hash marks right there to the right of the 2023 indicate a hash for each month of the year. And here are those clips and bolts that bolt them to the concrete ties. So that's the outside rail of this curve. And the inside rail, covered in a lot of grease from what I think might have been a hydraulic leak on the tamper. The grease covers the whole segment here. Probably hydraulic oil instead of grease. But this rail, it's hard to see, is Nippon rail, Japanese. And I think the date is June of 2013, but it's very hard to see. So this inside rail doesn't get quite this abuse that the outside rail does. So some of you familiar with this location might know the name Bosque, which is the next sighting west of here, about where that communications tower is right there. That's the east end of Bosque. In 1946, when this was still primarily steam country, and this was also a helper grade, up this 1% grade. So there was a Southern Pacific 410-2 steam locomotive of the Southern Pacific class, SP class locomotive. A 3-cylinder steam engine was working its way eastbound out of Gila Bend, again probably about 12 miles west of here, and I guess it slipped the crew's attention that they were running low on water, and the engine blew up, had a boiler explosion. And in those days they actually had an a.k.a. S2 switcher diesel locomotive that was acting as the helper engine up this grade. And unfortunately for that crew, the front of the smoke box blew off during the explosion and smashed the back of the a.k.a. S2 switcher, and the crew of the steam engine were killed. I do believe one of the crew members in the diesel locomotive survived, at least survived the impact and derailment. And I'm not sure if the diesel locomotive derailed or not, but anyway, it was a bad day to be out here on the railroad. The Southern Pacific Class 410-2 steam engine blew up completely, sending its boiler flying hundreds of feet off the rails and landing in the desert out here somewhere a couple of miles west of here. I've tried finding evidence of that in the past, but I don't think I was able to find anything of any significance that could pinpoint that I was actually looking at remains of a steam locomotive that had blown up. But that's a little bit of the history of this area. Aside from the fact that the rails were laid through here in the 1870s, about 1875 I believe. So this track has been here for almost 150 years in this very desolate area of central Arizona. We are probably about 40 to 50 miles north of the Mexican border down this way. And Phoenix is probably 50 miles to the southeast up over that mountain over there. So that's about all I can think of. Got a nice Southern Pacific Heritage unit for me out here today. Hopefully this video is up to Dave Cole's standards of bringing the railroad to you, as he likes to say. That's his kind of his catchphrase. So I'm glad you guys could watch this and join me out here today. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.